Thank you for asking, Martin. So today's meeting is on C&J Leads and how to go about selling them. C&J is a funeral factoring company. They are our sister company. They are the whole reason that the legacy division of Security National exists. You are the beneficiary on a life insurance policy. You take it down to the funeral home as a form of payment for your Uncle Stephen's funeral. What happens is funeral homes aren't banks, and as we know, it takes several weeks for a life insurance policy to pay out. Well, we can't keep Uncle Stephen in the refrigerator for several weeks, so there has to be a solution to provide easy, fast money for the beneficiary so that they can pay Uncle Stephen's final expenses. That comes in the form of funeral factoring, which is what our sister company C&J does. They step in and do what's called an assignment of benefits on that insurance policy. So the client signs a form that allows C&J to claim the benefits of that policy. C&J in return funds the face value of the policy minus their commission. I don't know what their commission is. It's very small. It's I don't know, 5%. I don't know. It's a tiny little chunk of what the value of that policy is. So the client gets their money today. Okay, they've got their money. They can pay for Uncle Stephen's funeral. Then C&J accepts the responsibility of dealing with the insurance company, regardless of which insurance company it is, in order to get paid back later when the policy when claim funds. Okay, so that makes sense to everyone, and you're going to need to develop a way to tell that story, because that story is the story. Here's what often happens when you get into these homes. These people have no idea that what I've just described actually took place. Dealing with final expenses, the death of a loved one, is the worst few days of a person's life. There are a million decisions that have to be made, and that assignment of benefits comes across their peripheral view so quickly that they really don't get what happened, and so we have to tell them. So what I'm going to describe to you today is the reason that we're doing this, and how to go about approaching the sale on one of these leads. We have over 100,000 of these leads that we produce every year, and C&J Financial is growing. It's getting bigger every year. They get more funeral homes on board and more people for us to go and see. The reason that we created the legacy division is because we have hundreds of thousands of these leads every year, and we can't give them to independent agents because they'll obviously sell them to whatever insurance company they choose, and it might not be Security National Life. But this is an asset. This block of leads is an asset that belongs to our company, and so you and I, we've agreed to sign exclusivity arrangements in order to get these leads that will promise to only sell for Security National Life, which is fair enough. So there are a couple of I'm struggling for the word, idiosyncrasies about managing these leads and working them properly that need to be discussed, and that's the purpose of today's webinar. First is the initial approach. As I described to you, the lead is generally a person who doesn't quite understand the mechanics of what's taking place, how that money got into the bank account to pay for that funeral. So the first thing we do is that we have to kind of draw that picture for them, and I literally draw a picture, and I think I've shown both of you what the picture is. It's a little upside down triangle that I draw, and I'll draw one here in a few minutes that kind of describes the relationship between the beneficiary, the funeral home, and the life insurance company, and C&J Financial. People will just tell you, well, my insurance already paid for Uncle Stephen's funeral, but that's not true. Their insurance company is probably still currently dealing with the still currently dealing with C&J Financial and will eventually pay them back. It was actually C&J that paid for the funeral. So let's start by taking a look at the lead and see what a lead looks like. So unfortunately, you're not going to be able to look at my pretty face for the next few minutes. I'm going to have to, yeah, I know. You're going to have to comfort yourselves with just the view of what my screen looks like. Okay, so this is a C&J lead. Can everybody see it?
Got it.
Okay. How do we know it's a C&J lead? Because when we look at our leads manager, we see that C&J leads are a different color. They're all in gray instead of blue. Okay, and it says C&J under the lead block source. Here's the important thing I want you to understand. There could, look, all of this data is input by humans that work at C&J. You will have to be fast on your feet from time to time. You're going to get a lead where the names are reversed. On this particular lead, Denise Griffin is the beneficiary on that life insurance policy. Okay? Alfreda Lewis is the deceased, and her funeral was funded on May the 5th, 2015. All right? These leads do not get old. We try to get there within 6 months, but we don't want to be there next week either. You've got to understand these people are grieving, they're mourning, and we want to give them some time to do that before we go and see them. The reason we go to see them is because they have a relationship with our company already. And they're going to buy their life insurance somewhere. They've already learned that they can trust us, and so we try to help them make the right decision in buying life insurance in the future for themselves and their remaining family members. So we don't go in too quickly. We wait a few weeks or even a few months, and we go to see these leads and we tell our story. So in a few minutes, we're going to get into how the presentation works. The presentation is brand new. It's a work in progress. I initially wrote it back in January. I've tested these leads extensively since then, and I've got a presentation that works fairly well with me. But I've got to tell you, this is for a skilled salesperson. You got to be fast on your feet. Before we get into the presentation, I want to give you an idea, and hopefully you've got a notepad out and you can take a few notes. But I want to give you a few ideas of what you're going to run into. The first thing you're going to see a lot of is folks that don't fit the traditional final expense age demographics. You're going to run into folks that are in their 30s and 40s and have children that are still young and still at home. And so you need to start becoming familiar with the Security Care Plan product, because you're going to write a lot of it. You're going to write a lot of it when you're running these leads. You'll go into a house and write 5 policies, and half the people there will be under the age of 10. It's just the way it's going to work. The second thing you need to understand about these leads is that there's going to be a high percentage of replacements. Now, in general, the replacement companies we'll be going up against are going to be companies that are far more expensive than we are, but they're going to be home service companies. So you've got kind of a little war of inconsistencies going on. One is we're far less expensive than they are, but second, they have agents that actually come and knock on the door once a month, and they will turn up the heat and they will try to get that business back if you steal it. So when you run these leads, you have to pay a little attention to your persistency. You got to call them. You got to call them for the first few months, make sure that they're not going back, and remind them, because like all of us, they get busy with their lives and they forget why it was that they decided to switch over. You have to call them, you have to remind them, you have to keep a relationship with the people that buy insurance from you under these C&J leads. Much more relationship driven than traditional final expense, which is, kind of a one shot, one kill type of deal. All of that is very good for you, because the one thing that I have noticed in running these C&J leads is that I get a much higher referral rate from these leads than any other lead I've ever run. You end up talking to people and writing the whole family, and I don't know why that happens, but it just does. And you're walking across the street and writing their next door neighbors as well. So here's the fundamental truth about leads. All leads are horrible. It's nothing but a piece of paper with a name on it. It's what you make of the lead that matters. So these leads have good points and bad points as compared to commercially generated leads. So I'm trying to make you guys aware of what those differences are. So let's recap a little bit. One is you're going to have a different age demographic, a wider age demographic than what you're accustomed to. Number two is you're going to run into a lot of replacement situations, and these replacements are generally going to be home service companies, which have premiums that are much more expensive than our premiums. However, their advantage is that they have agents that come and knock on the door every month and keep in touch with these folks. So once that begins to happen, you've got a competitive opportunity there, but it does create some different ways of doing business than what you're accustomed to. You're going to have to keep in touch with these people, and a lot of times you can take advantage of the same tactic that their home service agent takes. Now, I'm not advocating that you go knock on these leads' door once a month, but once you have established that you've got the better deal, call them. Call them every 60 days or so. Even if they say no the first time, call them. Keep them in your inventory. Sooner or later, they'll come around. The only reason they're staying with those home service agencies is because they see that person and talk to them once a month. You can replace that friendly relationship. You can become the friendly relationship, and you can get all that business. And I promise you, these leads have a much, much higher rate of referrals than any leads I've ever run. I generally get at least one referral at probably half the leads I go and see. Are there any questions so far?
Well, only that the ones that I'm getting in the notes, they just have the date. There's no one else.
Okay. Well, we ran a program to update that over the weekend, and have you looked at it this morning?
No, I was waiting.
Okay, I would take another look at it. In fact, I'll do it right now. Let's see. Let me see if I can sort this and find you.
So we can actually sort it by C&J or customized, right?
Absolutely. You can sort by any column here.
All right.
Of course, my sorting's not working. Let's see. We are going up. Let's look at about page 7.
It's never the computer, you know that, right?
Yeah. But I appreciate you bringing it up, pal.
Anything for a good buddy, man.
Yeah. Okay, let's.
You never know. You may have forgot that.
I won't forget. Believe me. Believe me. I'm well aware of my foibles.
I'm about to look that word up. Foible?
Yeah, I mean, but stuff you do wrong.
That's Marine jargon.
Marine jargon. All right. Hold on a second. Let me try this one more time.
Okay.
Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. If Chuck's leads are correct, then your leads will be correct. And
Absolutely.
yes, they are. Okay, you see that, Martin? We've got the name of the deceased here in the notes category, and then we've got the name of the beneficiary up here in the. Now, look,
Right.
all of this data was input by human hands, actually typing it. So be prepared. Be ready to be fast on your feet. If you knock on the door and you ask for Alicia and you find out Alicia's been passed away, then you just immediately pivot to Robin. Okay, does that make sense?
Right.
Okay.
Well,
So you got.
I ran with
I can't understand you, Martin.
it. When I came home the afternoon of the 16th, I saw the leads that were in Kenner. Different colors. I thought these must be new leads. So I grabbed one and I wrote them all down. Went out there. One of them that was home was a daughter who was the beneficiary, but her name wasn't on there. It was the deceased name. And we had a great conversation. We went through everything. So.
Okay. Good.
Did you write it?
Yeah. Why did you write it?
Nothing.
Nothing. Now, why not?
She already had insurance. In fact, she was paying for insurance for her brothers, and we were talking about if I could get them cheaper. So I'm hoping to get back to see her this week.
Okay. Well, you might find, you bring up a point that I have also found is that I usually find that with these C&J leads, we have a lot more multi stops. Got to come back and see them or whatever.
Right.
And that's kind of a function of people who use home service agencies. They've got their whole dang family insured. Policies are all over the place. The people you need to sign the application and ask the medical questions of aren't there. So that's something like I'm telling you, this is advanced sales. This is sales 201, not sales 101. So, but the sales are there, and generally once it breaks loose, you've got 4 or 5 policies in one house rather than just one. It's a slightly different way of doing business, but you will find it there. Let me pull up another one of these C&J leads. It's got my name on it, not yours, Martin, but I just yeah. Okay, so the leads were updated. They updated them over the weekend. They figured out why we were getting wrong names, and they fixed it. But don't trust it, okay? Just be prepared that you might have these names backwards on your lead. What should exist is the notes section should be the deceased and their date of death. If not the date of death, it's the date that we conducted a transaction with this person. In other words, that's the date that they signed the paperwork with C&J Financial. The name on the lead should be the beneficiary of that policy. Something to remind you of. On occasion, you will run into a person and it's difficult to use the leads manager to determine this, but you might run into a person where the deceased has several beneficiaries and there are several agreements with C&J out there. Shouldn't matter in the course of one sale, but if you're in a house and they say, well, yeah, my sister got half of that policy as well, then you can run home, open up your leads manager, type their sister's name in there, and you should be able to pull them up as a lead as well. And now you can kind of work it as a team going forward with that pair of leads. I've sold several policies that way where I had 2 sisters that were both beneficiaries on the same policy. They were 2 different leads, and I just got them together and talked it all out. And in several of those cases, I've actually made the sale. So that's good news, and that's what a C&J lead looks like, and that's how it works. The important thing you need to take away from the lead is it's a different color, so you know what you're looking at. It also says it right on the lead. So if you're say sorting by zip code and printing out everything in a zip code for that to run today, all you have to do is look at your lead source right here, and you can tell what kind of lead it is. Your notes should have the name of the deceased, and the name on the lead should be your beneficiary. Okay, so now we're prepared to begin the discussion on how do we sell a C&J lead. Let me talk for a few moments about how I go about doing that. And I am going to stop screen sharing and turn back on my camera. This is a delicate scene. Yeah. I really appreciate that, Jonathan, because as you know, I record these meetings and they go on YouTube, and later, when we have 20 or 30 or 100 agents, they'll all be able to go back in time and hear all those comments. So thanks. Whose phone number is 504-616-6669?
Jonathan.
Okay. This is a different sale. Here's what makes it different. These people aren't expecting you. They never replied to any sort of marketing that we've done in order to become a prospect. Once a person becomes entered in our database, we send them an opt-out letter. According to FTC rules, Federal Trade Commission rules tell us that just because we have an existing business relationship does not give us the authority to go and contact these persons. We first have to give them the opportunity to opt out from further discussion. So we send everybody, every single one of these C&J leads has been mailed, snail mail, a letter that says if you don't want to hear from us anymore, sign this form and send it back. And then we don't go and see them. They don't end up in your leads manager if that happens. So everybody that we go to see has gotten that mail and either responded to it or not. And just like everybody else, our clients, our families, throw their junk mail away and don't pay any attention to it. So they don't know we're coming, okay? When you have an internet lead or a direct mail lead or whatever kind of lead that I end up buying for you, and they have it in their head somewhere, oh yeah, I responded to this and this person's here to answer my questions. Well, that's not true in these cases. You have to be an ambassador telling our story. Here's how you do it. I knock on the door, and when the person answers the door, I immediately say, Mr. Short, my name is Stephen Lowry. I work for Security National Financial, and we're a company that recently helped your family. You had a loved one that passed away some time ago, and your loved one's name was so-and-so. You didn't know it, but at that time we were helping behind the scenes to get the funding for your Uncle Stephen's funeral. And I wanted to stop by today and make sure that everything went okay. Can I come in for a few minutes? And that's exactly how I get in the door. It's as simple as that. They're either going to say yes or no. I'd like to break right now for a minute because I think that that Jonathan is very good at front porches and getting in the door and ask you to review the language that I'm using and see if you have any thoughts on how to maybe improve it.
No, the important part is to get in front of the door, and I think that that's a good one, that you want to, explain the benefits. You said we assisted. How did you word that? We assisted with the funeral arrangements. Is that
with the funding? We assisted with the funding. Yeah, that's what I say. Now, remember, these families do not have any idea what took place. Very few of them have any idea that we even exist, or that C&J Financial exists, or that we've done anything. And they're going to look at you like you're nuts. They really will, and they'll say, "No, that's all taken care of. Everything's fine." I'm well aware of that, sir. I'm glad that everything's fine. But we played a part in the arranging of your Uncle Stephen's final arrangements. And my job is to come out and make sure that everything went well, and to kind of introduce my company to you, because even though we've worked for you in the past, we haven't had the opportunity to introduce ourselves because everything that we did was behind the scenes. May I come in for a moment? And then you're either going to get in the house right there or not. If you don't, put them in your put them in your tickler file and keep track of them every couple of months. I would not wear myself out because we get so many of these leads. They're brand new all the time. You guys have no idea what the lead flow is. What you've been seeing from the commercial leads that I've been buying pales in comparison to the volume of these C&J leads. You're going to get so many. It's a flood. I promise you. You'll always have plenty of people to see. So you get in the door, okay? You have to be fast on your feet. You're going to get objections on the porch. The number one objection you're going to get is, no, my insurance already paid for that. So you have to be prepared with an answer. My answer is, yes, sir, your insurance did pay for it, and we helped them. And my job is to kind of describe how it went, and secondly, to find out how your experience was. And that's going to come into play. That sentence that I used just now is going to come into play in a few minutes. It's part of the presentation. So you get in the door, and the first thing you have to do is offer your condolences. Mr. Short, I'm so sorry to hear about the death of your Uncle Stephen. I'm glad that my company had the opportunity to be there for you, and I'd like to take just a minute and describe the work that we did for you behind the scenes when your Uncle Stephen passed away. And at that point, I actually draw a picture, and you guys have all seen me draw this picture before, but I'm going to draw it again for your benefit. So I'm going to go back to screen sharing. Okay. Oop, don't want that. This is what I want. Okay, and the first thing you do is you draw a circle right here on your piece of paper. I actually draw it on the lead itself. Inside that circle, I'm going to, if I can figure out how to type on this thing, I type the letters LI. Now, Mr. Short, this represents your life insurance company. Your Uncle Stephen did not use Security National Life as his life insurance company, but he did have a life insurance company. It was, for example, Union National, and they're a great company, and we're glad that we have the opportunity to work closely with them from time to time. Now, Mr. Short, when your Uncle Stephen passed away, you took that life insurance policy down to the funeral home. When you got to the funeral home, some things took place, and I understand that you had many, many decisions that needed to be made, and you had lots of confusing paperwork coming your way in order to get that funeral taken care of. But one of the things that happened while you were going through all of this was that the funeral home came to you with a piece of paper called an assignment of benefits, and they asked you to assign benefits to a company called C&J. The reason they do that, Mr. Short, is because your Uncle Stephen used a life insurance policy. Well, life insurance takes several weeks to pay, and funeral homes need their money today so that they can perform the funeral and take care of your Uncle Stephen. That's where my company comes in. My company is Security National Life, and we are part of a family of companies. One of our sister companies is called C&J Financial. C&J Financial actually paid for your uncle's funeral, and the way that they do that is by giving the money directly to the funeral home, and then several weeks later, they deal with the life insurance company to be reimbursed. And all of this takes place generally without you even understanding all of the mechanics of what happened. But the point that I'm trying to make to you, Mr. Short, is that our company was there for your family when you needed us, and we did it behind the scenes. And we dealt with your life insurance company so that on the worst day of your life, we could take one small decision and one small problem away from you and make sure that you had the money in place immediately to perform a funeral for your uncle in the way that he deserved and that you wanted him to be remembered. And that's why I came by today. So I actually draw that picture, fellas, and that's how I go about introducing us to the company. Now, it's always very mechanical when you kind of share your presentation with someone online. Um, it's mechanical and you kind of lose the spirit of it, but there's conversations that are taking place and people are asking you questions. I don't remember signing an assignment of benefit. I don't remember any of this. My insurance company paid. I got a letter just the other day saying that they paid on all these things. So the answer is simply to be comfortable with yourself, comfortable in your skin, understand the emotions that are going through this person's mind because they don't expect you there. You just barged into their life and dropped a bomb on them. And many, many times they're going to be afraid that you've come to collect. You have to kill that fear right away. I'm not here to collect money from you. I'm here to share with you what the relationship between my company and your family is. Okay? Be prepared for all of those things. Here's kind of how I have gone about putting those fears aside. What we've done is we've created a survey, and the survey is really the nuts and bolts of the presentation. So I am going to share my desktop again and get into it with you. Are there any questions so far? You've all seen me draw that picture for you before. I drew that picture for both of you during our initial interviews. Do you have any questions on how it works?
Just so I'm sure, it's not part of the presentation, but C&J will, I get that they pay the benefit, but then the life insurance company actually pays them and sends the rest of the proceeds to the beneficiary?
Well, they kind of do it on a case-by-case basis. If the policy is very big, if it's a large policy, C&J will just pay a portion of it. And then the life insurance company will split the proceeds between the original beneficiary and C&J Financial. But if the policy's small, if it's a small final expense policy, yeah, the entirety of it may go to C&J.
Gotcha.
It's really irrelevant. The bottom line is we know for a fact that some of the money that went to that final to those final expenses came from C&J Financial. That's the only way we would have this beneficiary's name.
Right.
Okay. So there may be a better way to communicate to these folks why I'm sitting in their living room. If there is, tell me, share it with me so that we can incorporate it into what we're doing corporately here. There may very well be a better way. So experiment with it. Try to make it better. Try to improve it so we can uplift us all. Now, we have gotten, if you've made it that far in the house, you're probably going to be able to get to the next step, which is the beneficiary survey. The beneficiary survey is a way for us to gauge the satisfaction of the client, to get them further understanding the nature of what it is that we've done for them as a company with C&J Financial and Security National Financial Corporation overall, and to start planting the seeds in them that we might be an alternative to the insurance company they're currently using or to having no insurance at all. Now, I kind of lost my train of thought, but
all right. So while you're thinking about that, we have it doesn't matter what insurance company they have, it's the relationship that we have with whatever funeral home they go to.
Bingo. That's
okay, cool.
That's how C&J generates business. They create relationships with funeral homes, and those funeral homes will choose to, rather than finance funerals, to use C&J so they can have their money today. A dollar today is worth more than a dollar tomorrow, right? That's the way C&J looks at it, or the funeral homes look at it, because it's true. And they don't have the ability to easily discount the future value of a dollar the way we do. In order for them to discount the future value of a dollar, they have to attach an interest rate, where we don't have to do that. We can simply attach a commission. Got it?
Gotcha.
Okay. Does that make sense to you, Martin? I've lost Martin. I can see you talking. Same old problem we've always had. I can see you talking because I get little sound indicators on my computer screen, but I can't hear you talking. So that's how it works. The next thing I do is I begin to introduce the client to our beneficiary survey. So let me share my screen and show you the beneficiary survey.
Hey, Martin, you can dial in with your phone because that's what I do. I look at the computer and I dial in on the number.
The purpose of the beneficiary survey is really a warm-up, and it's to plant the seeds of creating that environment for a sale to take place. I know that when I'm talking to you guys, I use the word client a lot, but when I'm in the house, if you've ever been in the house with me, you notice that I use the word families instead. So we're trying to establish the fact that we are, you're one of our families, and you're important to us. And the way I do, and there's a psychological benefit to doing it with a survey as well, because you're going to see as we go through the questions, what we're really concerned about is understanding the value that we brought to this family, and secondly, communicating the value that we brought to this family. These questions are designed to do that, but I wrote them myself, and I'm not a corporate psychologist. So if you see any problems with it, let me know, and we will experiment and tweak it until we get it right. Question number 1. Mr. Short, before I go, I'd like to ask you a few questions about your experience when your Uncle Stephen passed away, and kind of find out how well my company performed. And frankly, if we did our job correctly, it was so seamless you really didn't even know what we were doing. So would you mind if I took a few minutes to do that? Mr. Short, did you know that your loved one owned this policy? Is that you, Martin?
Yeah.
All right. So, Mr. Short, why don't you help me role play a little bit, okay? Did you know that your loved one owned this policy? So you simply mark the answer down. A lot of times it'll be yes or no. Well, every time it'll be yes or no, but often when it's yes, it's because the beneficiary was a spouse to the deceased, okay? Describe how you felt knowing that this policy would pay your loved one's final expenses. And I'm going to tell you right now, guys, 70% of the people that you see, the answer, and I know it's 70% because I've done the math, 70% are going to tell you they were relieved. Relieved that they didn't have to, sell barbecue lunches and do all kinds of other crazy stuff in order to come up with the funding for this funeral, or put it on their credit cards, okay? Did your loved one discuss this gift with you? Now, if the answer to question number 1 is yes, then question number 3 becomes irrelevant. So just keep that in mind. There's nothing wrong with asking an irrelevant question as long as you keep the families talking. But, find a way to get them expanding on it and talking. The secret to all sales is to get the client talking, because once they're talking, you know that they're interested. If you do all the talking in your presentations, something's off, and it needs to be addressed. You have to pique their interest. You have to tap those emotions, those motivating factors that get people to move. Now, this is question number 4, I think, is a key question because you're going to be able to turn it to your advantage one way or the other. How quickly did you learn that the claim would be paid? So, Mr. Short, and I'm asking you right now, play along with me, Martin. How quickly did you learn that the claim would be paid?
Well, I was at the funeral home, and they told me they'd take care of everything. So
okay,
immediately.
Okay, so on the first day, you learned that the claim would be paid.
Sure.
Is that true? Okay. Well, Mr. Short, I'd like to make you aware of the fact that it's because of what my company does for a living that was true. Had you dealt strictly with your insurance company, they would have required a death certificate, which takes several weeks for the state to give you a death certificate in order in order to pay the claim. But because my company does what it does, we were able to make sure that that claim was paid on the very next day or the very same day, and get that money into your hands so that the funeral home could be paid. And I'd like for you to understand, and I certainly hope that that provided a good value to you. So, Mr. Short, were you satisfied with the speed of your settlement?
Very much, yeah.
Good,
I
great.
didn't realize it was that complicated. But yeah.
Yeah, it can be complicated, and we try to, and that's exactly why we're in business, because we try to make it less complicated. You've got two big problems. One is you need your money, and two is you need the money today. And there are so many decisions that have to be made. We're trying to we can't solve all your problems, but we're trying to solve that one, which is easy, fast money for you to use to take care of your Uncle Stephen's final expenses right now, so that you don't have to worry about that part of it. So, Mr. Short, can you tell me what would have happened had there been no policy for you to rely on?
Well, we would have been in so much trouble. No one had enough money to pay the barrier.
Right. Okay. So,
Have,
would you have had to maybe use a credit card, or tap into your savings account, or finance it through the funeral home or somebody else?
Ask the family to donate. Yeah, it was a tough time.
Okay. Well, Mr. Short, would this have been difficult for you to deal with?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm glad that we had the opportunity to help, and that's really why I came by today, was to kind of express to you how fortunate we feel that we've got this relationship with you, and that we were able to help your family when you needed us the most. Mr. Short, why do you think that your loved one chose this purchase?
She never told us. I just found out a few weeks before she passed that she had it.
Okay. All right. Would it be safe for me to assume, Mr. Short, that your Uncle Stephen chose to buy this policy so that you would not be faced with the burden of his final expenses?
Looking back, yes.
Okay. All right. So it was a gift of love, right?
In a manner of speaking, it was, yeah.
Okay, great. Now, Mr. Short, what other expenses were related to your loved one's passing, other than what took place at the funeral home?
Well, there was still some medical bills that we had to take care of.
Some medical bills. Most folks tell me, Mr. Short, that what they end up doing is that the funeral home has one bill, and then the cemetery has a completely different bill, and that includes the cost of interring, opening and closing the grave, and then the headstone generally costs $1,500 or maybe more. Is that true? Did that happen in your case?
Well, the funeral home actually said that they would take care of all of that except the headstone. We're not going to worry about his headstone right now. I guess we'll get one later.
Okay. What are you waiting for?
Oh, money.
Money. Okay. So had there been a little bit more money in your
I think we
Stephen's...
talked to them, and it was about $1,700 for a headstone. Just don't have that at the moment.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. Had there been a little bit more money in your Uncle Stephen's policy, would that have covered the headstone?
Yes, it would.
Okay. Now, Mr. Short, how do you feel about having a small dedicated amount in place to deal with your own final expenses?
Yeah, I would feel good about that.
Okay. Well, if you don't mind, I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to ask you some questions about yourself, and I'm going to see if maybe there's something that my company could do to help you make sure that you are able to provide the same gift that your uncle provided. And folks, that's when I go to the Getting to Know You survey, and I fill it out just like it says. And this is me preparing to give the person a quote. At this point, the presentation turns into the old presentation, exactly the same presentation we've always had. As you can notice, we have a place here for family members and their phone numbers. The reason that I do that, and it works so much better under the C&J leads than it does with commercial leads, is that's a referral generating mechanism. Once we've gone through everything we've gone through, I find that I'm very easily able to develop referrals, and it's because I believe it's because when you're kind of approaching things with commercial leads like a final expense agent would, the level of people are far more willing to give you their money for themselves than they are for their family members. But we're developing, we've already, by going through the beneficiary survey, we've already developed a much closer personal relationship with this family. And by using specific language when we describe the relationship between C&J and the client and the family, you use seeding language that gets the person to accept that we're already in this thing together. We already have a relationship because we do. And you use for certain phrases and words that kind of play into that. You say the word family over and over again. You say the word, we're glad we're able to help your family and that you're part of our family. Things like that start to develop a psychological connection between you and your families and your clients. And that results in higher referrals than you're going to get with commercial leads, in my opinion. It's very simple. I start talking about the benefits of whole life insurance policy at that point and just kind of do a basic sales presentation if I've made it that far. So I'd like to hear if you guys have any comments on kind of how I approach this thing so far.
Oh, sounds good.
Okay. What do you think? What do you think, Jonathan?
I think these are a really good opportunity, and it's going to take. I think you have a good presentation. I just got to make it my own. You know, yeah. I got to go knock on doors and try it out. But I think that you have a logical progression in your presentation, and it flows really well.
Okay, well, good. I appreciate that. This is going to be a much more emotional sale than a traditional final expense sale than what our commercial leads are. It's much more emotional. It's got a lower closing ratio, but it's tricky. Okay, the reason it's lower is because there's two things that make it a lower closing ratio. The first thing is because it's it's generally a replacement situation, and you're generally competing against a home service company. That can be overcome, but it takes time. You now have a relationship with this person, and they don't look at you as an outsider if you do the presentation correctly. So just because you don't get the sale, you now have the same advantage that their home service agent has, which is a relationship. You're not a stranger when you call them back to check on them. You can get their birth date. If you've done the survey, you know their birth date. You can send them a birthday card when you're in the neighborhood. You can stop by and drop off a pizza or whatever it is you got to do. But you can start to slowly replace their home service agent. And the giant advantage that you have over their home service agent is this: your insurance costs a lot less than theirs does, and money talks. It just does. Sooner or later, they will come around. Now, you're always going to get the hard stops where you just throw that thing away, and so do it. Throw it away. But if you treat these leads like you paid for it yourself and you work them over time, they will come around. I'm still selling leads that I worked in March and April, that I've just kind of maintained that relationship with the people, and eventually they come around. Now, here's the tricky part. You're coming into this house and you're basing your reason for being there on the premise that I want to make sure that you understand who my company is, and B, I want to make sure you're satisfied with us. You have to be careful when you transition into sales mode, because people will be like, you just came out here to sell me insurance today. Here's my advice. Do not ever backpedal, okay? Yes, I did come out here to sell you insurance today because I know that I've got the better deal for you. Your home service agency is charging you too much. Your home service agency, when your Uncle Stephen passed away, and look, I'm being a little bit forceful right now. Obviously, be nicer, okay? But here's the points that you're trying to make in a much more gentle way. Your home service company, they were slow to pay, and it required my company to come in and make sure that you had the money when you needed it. So yeah, we did come out here to sell you insurance today, Mr. Short, because we believe in our product and we believe in the relationship that we've already established with you, and we believe in what we've done for you behind the scenes. And we know that you're going to buy your insurance somewhere, and since we've already worked for you, since we've already been there for your family, we've brought you into our family, and we've provided for you, we think we think we should have I'm struggling for the word, guys.
Opportunity?
No, not opportunity. We think that we should have the grace, the guts to, there's a better word, but the courage. How about that? We should have the courage to come down and sit with you and explain to you who we are, and what we can do for you going forward, because we've already worked for you once. We'd love to keep working for you. So look, guys, I do not want to make excuses, okay? But the stroke that I had a month or two ago was in the language generating portion of my brain, right behind my left ear, and I'm struggling for words from time to time, and I know you guys can see my frustration, but I know that you're smart enough to take the little that I'm able to get out and turn it into something useful. Don't backpedal. That's the point. Yeah, I came here to sell you insurance today because I know that what we have is worth it. I know that we can provide value to you. I know that we already have. And okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, here's the bottom line. You're going to be challenged on that, and people are going to get pissed off at you and say, you come in here and you act like you care about me, and really you're just trying to sell me more insurance. Don't backpedal from that. Face it head on, and because there's nothing wrong with trying to sell insurance. There's no sin in that, especially if it benefits the client as much as we can benefit our clients, because generally they're going to be home service people and they're paying way too much. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. That is the presentation in a nutshell. And look, you're gonna just like with everything else, you're gonna fall on your face. You're gonna get it right. You're gonna keep notes, and you're gonna start to develop a system that resembles mine, but is very much your own. And I encourage that.
All right. So you said there was. To break it down into like three major parts. All right. So you said you want to make sure that they understand what we did for them. We want to explain to them how C&J Financial works, and we want to see if there's a way that we can help them in their moving forward.
Yes. I'd say there's one more component to that, and that missing component is this. How fortunate we feel and know that we are, and how grateful we are that we've had the opportunity to perform such an important duty for their family. And you can't bullshit that. You gotta mean it. And think about it for a minute, guys. We really have done a great thing for these families. We have been there when when they needed us the most. I mean, yeah, I know you've all had loved ones pass away, and so you can relate to the experience. You've got a million decisions to make. Everybody's got their hand out wanting money. Those funeral home guys are digging for every penny, and they're breathing down these clients' necks, and we show up with the money, and we do it in a quiet, dignified, unobtrusive way. We are valuable to these people. We've been valuable to them, and we need to let them know how grateful we are that we had that opportunity. And if you can't get there yourself emotionally, find a way to get there yourself emotionally, because this is a much more emotional sale than a final expense sale is. It's not quite a pre-need sale, but it's more of that human connection than a final expense sale is. So you have to find a way to get there. That's it.
Let me ask you this. I know we're associated with the funeral home, but let's say somebody has Security National life insurance that doesn't go to one of those funeral homes. Is C&J still going to step in?
No. C&J operates outside of us. They only deal with the funeral homes that they deal with, and they settle all kinds of insurance companies' policies.
Yeah. All right, so we can't make that claim, is what I'm saying. Okay.
No, you can't. Now, let me tell you a couple of horror stories. Get ready for horror stories. They're going to happen. I had a lady in Jackson, Mississippi, call the funeral home and say, "Who is this guy, and why did you send him to my house?" And there was a big shitstorm in the company, and there was some controversy around it. So, look, what we're doing is kind of outside the norm. We're running a pirate ship here, so. It's my job to handle. It's my job to handle those controversies. If you get involved in one, just leave and go on to your next lead. Okay. When you get let me kind of paint the picture of how that happened to me. The beneficiary on the policy was a lady who was in her late 70s, and her husband had passed away, and she lived with her daughter. Now, the beneficiary herself was very receptive to talking to me and wanted to know what I had to say. She didn't want to buy any more insurance, and that's fine, but she wanted to connect with somebody. So I took 10 minutes of my day, and I just connected with her, and I just talked with her about it. Okay, I couldn't have written her anyway. She was too old and too sick. So I was not trying to sell insurance at that point. Not that it matters. I was just being a human, Well, her daughter was the suspicious type, and nothing could convince her that I wasn't trying to rip her mother off. And look, you're going to run into that. Be tough, okay? Just be tough. That's all I can tell you. It maybe happens one out of every 50 leads. It doesn't happen a lot, but it will happen. So be prepared for it. Just go on to the next lead. Don't worry about it. And if something bubbles up to the surface, send it my way and I'll take care of it. We're prepared for that. Myself and Guy, those contingencies are written into the plan that you guys don't worry about and don't need to worry about. But we've addressed those issues way back when. Be aware. Security National Life has its own home service division. Okay, they operate out of Jackson, Mississippi. They do operate some in southern Louisiana, not a whole lot, but some. If you find yourself in a competitive situation with Security National Life Home Service Division, walk away. Don't try to replace. Yeah, don't try to replace our own business. Okay, just walk away and leave it at that. If some controversy arises in that situation, make sure I know about it so that I can head it off. Okay. It shouldn't be any controversy, but if there is, our own home service division is very small. There's very few agents out there, and statistically, you're not going to run into one of our cases, and so just don't worry about it. If you do, walk away and let me know. That's it.
Got it.
Guys, what I want you to be prepared for is this. you're going to run into a lot of replacement situations running these leads. When you run into those replacement situations, be aware that you're probably going to have to work it a little harder. You're going to have to say, you know what, I'm glad that I had the opportunity to meet you. I'm going to give you a call in a month. How's that? Or can I stay in touch with you? What's your birthday? I'm going to send you a birthday card. Become a kind of a rough facsimile of a home service agent, and that business will flow to you. These are not often they're not one-shot kills like the commercial leads are. Don't try to call these people. These are door knocks. Okay, these are door knocks. These are generally home service people, and there is no way you can communicate why you want to come see them that's going to work. Okay, that's just the facts. Oh yeah, my company, we paid for your Uncle Steven's funeral. Can I come see you tomorrow? I've got a few questions for you. That's not going to work there, and I can't. I have not been able to figure out any way around that. So don't try it. Just go door knock them. They're so concentrated that door knocking's easy with these. You can get 20 of them in the same zip code and just
Mr. Lowry,
hit it.
I was in the neighborhood writing a policy, and I had your name and address. I thought I'd stop by and tell you.
Yeah, you can approach it that way. You certainly can. I don't. I approach it from the extent of this is a special trip that I made just to see you because you're important to me. And let me tell you why you're important to me. And that's kind of how I approach it, but I've got no problem with your approach either, Martin.
No, I'm talking about if you have a problem, if there's a problem, just in a neighborhood.
Right, absolutely. We've got a lot more to talk about with this, but I'm kind of at the end of my brain power right now. I think I've said everything that I can think of at the moment. Jonathan, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah. Does Security National own C&J, or C&J owns Security National?
Neither. Security National Financial Corporation owns us both.
Okay. So I just don't get why we don't do funeral factoring with our own policies. Has that ever
Well,
been
we
brought
do.
up?
We do funeral factoring with our own policies if the funeral home
They go
requests
to
it.
a funeral home. Right.
Yeah. What you're saying is a beneficiary calls up Security National and says, hey, my Uncle Stephen just passed away. How does this claim get settled? Well, Security National has the same policies as everyone else. First of all, we're going to check it for contestability. And second of all, we're going to get a death certificate. Once we've got the death certificate, we'll send you your money. We do it just like everybody else. What you're advocating is that we establish a relationship with C&J that streamlines that process. Is that correct?
Correct.
I don't have an answer for you. I don't know why we don't do that, but we don't. So there you go.
I mean, because all right, let me add something on to that. Okay, so let's say somebody goes to a funeral home that accepts C&J. They get the funeral factoring done. They pay the funeral, and then the policy's contested, and then it's not paid. What happens? That person still owes for the funeral then.
That won't happen. That won't happen. C&J does not factor policies that are contestable.
Well, how will they know?
Well, contestability is based on date. So if the policy is less than 2 years old and the person died of natural causes, it's automatically contestable. However, if the policy is more than 2 years old, and that's with every insurance company, if the policy is more than 2 years old, or if it's less than 2 years old and the person died in an accident, it's not contestable. So that's how C&J knows. Following me?
No, I'm with you. I think there's other situations where it could still be contestable after 2. So what you're saying is even if somebody lied on their app after 2 years, it's incontestable?
Yes,
If they
that's
died
what I'm
after
saying.
2 years.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
2 years and 1 day, it doesn't matter what you said. If you make it that far, it's not contestable.
Okay. I learned something today.
Well, good. All right. How about you, Martin? What's on your mind?
Got it. Oh, I'm good to go.
Okay. Now these are a little bit more difficult to run than other leads. In terms of your closing ratio will be lower. They're easier to run than other leads because they are first of all concentrated. You'll be able to sort by zip code and run and gun. You're going to get a lot more referrals out of these than others. So it kind of evens out in the end. Now let's talk about our commercial leads for a few minutes. I'm not real happy on the performance that we're seeing out of the leads that we've gotten. I don't know if that's the lead's fault or if it's our fault. Really, my take on it generally is all leads are horrible, and if there's a problem, the problem is the agent, and the agent is me and you guys. However, I do think there are some things that I could do to kind of increase our chances. I like these internet leads because they're very fast. I can order leads. I can get them in a couple of days. I tend to have a slightly higher closing ratio with internet leads than I do with direct mail leads. I'm not seeing that out of you guys. I'm seeing kind of the same. Here's another problem with the internet leads. They're widely dispersed in terms of geography and in terms of we're not able to really pinpoint the age demographic like we'd like to. In order to generate enough leads, we're getting a lot of people that are in their 50s, and I think you would agree with me on that. And the 50s age bracket is not our demographic. We're looking for people that are at home and retired, right? We're running into a big problem with folks that aren't home. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we got to play with our schedule.
Right. Also, we're running into a little bit of a problem demographically when it comes to income levels. We're seeing some folks that are probably a little bit outside our income levels, and I don't know if that's good or bad. I think it raises our premium when we're able to make the sale, but I also think that it what I'm learning is that it might disperse the sales so widely that the increase in premium doesn't make up for it. Would you guys agree with that?
Say that last part again.
The fact that we have higher premiums with internet leads, I don't think is made up for because I think that we're getting a lower closing ratio, and that kind of eliminates any benefit we get from higher premiums.
Yeah, usually the people with money, it's whoever gets to them first, and whoever can do it with the least amount of, with their least amount of effort. But I would agree with that.
Okay. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking of switching over to a direct mail program. Here's what I see as the benefits of a direct mail program. One, we can pinpoint it by zip codes. So I can give you guys smaller territories, and I can kind of alleviate that windshield time. Another benefit of direct mail cards is they're very easy to set phone appointments for. I think you guys would agree. You've both run direct mail before. It's so easy to set. I can set 60 to 70% of my cards that I get back. I can set a phone appointment for, and I can stack up a day with 6 set appointments and go out there and sell 3 of them. So that's a benefit. I can pinpoint it by age and income. There are benefits. Okay. Here's the problem with running a direct mail program. The problem is every stinking agent out there, and if you have not been to the Department of Insurance website, go there and do a search on agents and find the ones that are working for final expense companies. I guarantee you within 3 blocks of where you live, there's 4 final expense agents, and they're all running direct mail programs, and they're all seeing the same clients that you see. Okay? I am typically only able to close about 20 to 25% of my direct mail leads. But we're not closing that with our internet leads right now. None of us are. So I'm not sure that that really hurts us any. Here's the other thing. I can control my spending. Right now, the way internet leads work is we just buy them when they come in. Once they're generated, I'm on the hook. And I'm spending way too much money, and we're not seeing the closing ratio that we need to see to justify that spending. Where with a direct mail program, I can give each of you an allowance every month and say, I'm gonna spend a certain amount of money on you every month. I'm gonna give you every lead that comes in. But the problem with direct mail is you can't control how much comes in. If I send out 1,000 pieces of mail, I might get 10 back, or I might get 15 back, and if I'm really, really lucky, I might get 20 back. That happens rarely. It happens more in rural areas than it does in urban areas, but that's the problem. You get what you get. So the bottom line is, if I switch over to a direct mail program, I'm going to be giving you the leads that come in, but it's not going to be based on I promised you a certain amount of leads. It's going to be I promised that I would spend a certain amount of money marketing for you, and I'm going to give you what the results are. So I'm not asking for your input on this, guys. I'm just letting you know what's going on in my head, and in a way to make it better for all of us. But everybody has to win in this situation, and right now, I don't think the company's winning. We're spending too much money on leads, and we're not getting the closing ratio that we need to justify it. And I know that direct mail is it's a more competitive market, but it's also it's also cost effective. It just is. So just be prepared for that. I really don't think you guys care anyway, because I don't think you're in love with these internet leads, are you?
I love them.
Huh?
I love them.
Who's that?
Martin.
Martin. Okay. Well, if you love them, you love them. And you do have the highest closing ratio out of the bunch. So, there's these leads can be sold. They absolutely can. Yeah, I don't know. No decisions have been made yet. I'm just kind of turning it over in my head. I've got a lot of experience running both, and I'm trying to find that balance that's going to get us all happy. So there we are. I think Martin, that you would prefer to have agents or families that fit your age criteria, your income criteria, and we're more likely to be at home during the day, wouldn't you?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Wouldn't it? Like you,
all right.
like we talked. Sometimes you have
I'm
to
sorry.
run a little late. Sometimes you have to start in the afternoon and run into early evening. So, half of one, whatever.
Well, I hear what you're saying, and like I said, no decisions have been made yet, and really, I think that, look, leads are leads. It's just a piece of paper with a name on it. It's what you do with it, what you make of it, that matters. So, I don't know. I'm just starting to feel like there may be some advantages to switching over to a mail program or some other type of lead that will give us a little bit more of a targeted. And here's the other thing. I don't know how many times you guys have heard this, but I've heard it a million times. I never went out to your website. Well, when I've got a card in my hand that's got your signature on it, you can't say that to me because I'm looking at it, right? I'm looking at it. I'm holding it and I'm showing it to you. Here's where you signed this, and I turn it over, and there's your little address label with the with the kitten on it. Is this your address? Yeah, it's you. You did come out there, and you did request some information on final expense insurance, and that's my job, is to provide that to you. So, all right. What else?
Yeah, they can't tell you they clicked the wrong button.
Right. You had to dig through your junk drawer. You had to find a pen that works. You had to fill this thing out and march it on down to the mailbox in order for me to get it back. So,
well, let me ask you this too. You said we get 100,000 leads a year. That's across the country, though, right?
Yeah.
How many come in from Louisiana? Any idea? 10%? 5%?
A pretty good chunk. It's probably more than 10%. Our funeral factoring company, C&J, basically works in the southeast. So most of them are east of Texas, or Texas and east, and Kentucky and south. We're expanding. We're gonna take over the whole country before it's all over with. But right now, we don't write products in the Northeast. Insurance laws are very difficult to get around up there. And we just don't deal with the Department of Insurance in, for example, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, Massachusetts. It's you got to jump through a lot of hoops to get licensed to do business up there, and so we, as a company, we just haven't seen the cost benefit of doing so yet. But that day will come. I don't understand why you asked that question.
Oh, I was, you're talking about doing direct mail. If we have that many leads already, let's see what we can get out of that in the current internet leads we have, and stop burning through so much cash. Like you say, it's got to be cost effective. And
yeah,
I don't,
yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you why.
It might make.
I'm listening.
No, I was just saying, I mean, it just has to make sense all the way around for you, for the company. Like you said, for us, a lead's a lead. It's just a piece of paper. It's an opportunity. But there might be, more receptive people. Because I have a personal experience with my brother-in-law and my sister. And there was no funeral factoring involved. And I think that's a powerful tool that I can relate to, that I could have a good conversation with somebody about.
Yep. Hey, stories is everything. If you've got a story, use it. And you're absolutely right, Jonathan, and I agree with you. Let me tell you why I even give you commercial leads, regardless of where I buy them from. You're going to find out with these C&J leads, you've got a high replacement ratio. A lot of your sales are going to be replacement sales, and that always leads to lower persistency. And that's why we've done this. That's why we've given you commercial leads, is so that you can kind of alleviate a little of those persistency problems and have some sales that are not replacements, that are just fresh, raw sales.
Yeah.
That can kind of pad your experience. That's all I'm trying to accomplish. The only reason we do commercial leads is for your benefit. It's not for my benefit, because it doesn't cost me a dime for you to go out there and drive around all day selling leads, and half of them get replaced next month when the home service agent shows. It doesn't hurt me one bit. Right. It only hurts you. But the whole purpose of what we're doing here is to build a system that is beneficial to agents, so that agents will want to stay with us and work these leads. That's it. That's the only reason I'm even giving you commercial leads. But you hit the nail on the head. It's got to benefit all of us, and right now it's not. So I'm trying to find a way that benefits us all. And look, I don't think that direct mail leads will hurt you guys one bit. It won't. It'll probably help you. And I know it'll help the company. It'll help what we're trying to accomplish here. Direct mail leads are fine. And I kind of feel like you guys are a little nervous about them, but you shouldn't be. They're just leads. They're fine.
One of the bad points of the internet leads is you got people going in there 2, 3, 4 times, and you're paying for those. Apparently, you can't get them credited, right?
That's exactly right.
So that's tough.
Here's the upside. They're quick. You get them in a week. You've got that lead in your hand within a few days. If I switch over to a mail program, it's going to take 3 or 4 weeks before I have leads to give you. And now, I just gave you about 2,000. I just gave you 2,000 funeral home leads, so you ought to be able to keep you busy for a few weeks. It really should. But that's kind of where we are. Here's the other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about, and it directly relates to that. Founders Month is coming up. Starts next week or the week after. Starts next week. It's a great opportunity for you to get a lot of extra money in your pocket, and you know, I want you to have leads that are beneficial to you when you run those. I've given you 2,000 leads in the last few days, and look, if you can burn through all the ones in your neighborhood and you wanna get a hotel room and go somewhere, it's gonna be worth it during Founders Month. Tell me, hey, Stephen, call me up. I want to go to Shreveport and spend a couple of days. I will give you the leads, everything you need, whatever you want. I want to make a big impact in Founders Month. It's an opportunity for all of us to kind of show the company that we're valuable and put a lot of money in your pockets. The incentives during Founders Month are pretty great. You can just go out and work hard. I know a guy 2 years ago who put an extra $7,000 in his pocket over and above what he sold, just because of the incentives that are attached to that month. So keep that in mind. What else? Nothing else. All right, we've been on the phone for a long time. I'm going to let you guys go and get to work. Start working these C&J leads. I've got new internet leads that will be uploaded to the system here in a few hours, and you can work those as well. I would recommend you start getting your feet wet with these C&J leads, start seeing how they work. There's no way I can possibly communicate to you the intricacies of the difference. You're just going to have to learn it. You're just going to have to learn how to work these things. And talk to me about it. Stay on the phone with me. If I'm not hearing from you, I'm worried about you. So I don't want to be the boss that micromanages you and calls you up all the time and hey, whatever. But I expect to hear from you. So call me up. Let me know what's going on. What's good, what's bad. I'm not afraid and I'm not worried. Tell me what your thoughts are. All right, fellas, I'll put this YouTube video up. I'm going to have all of the forms that you need. Carry these forms into the house. The beneficiary survey and the getting to know you survey. Use them. Use physical copies to write on. That's how you make this sale. And when you run, and make sure you got plenty of replacement forms because you're going to need them. Saved rounds.
Take care.
No saved rounds. All right, fellas, get after it. Bye.
All right. Bye.